Hey, this week I thought it would be fun to dig into the archives and give an old video a little makeover. This one is super appropriate for this time of year. It's a very creamy, very delicious mushroom risotto. It's less about the recipe and more about the technique. I think a lot of us put risotto in the too time consuming, too fussy category, but the way I make it here is super quick, really straightforward. It doesn't require a lot of stirring, and it makes a very delicious creamy risotto. So I hope you enjoy this video. If you haven't seen it already, that's a bonus. If you have seen it already, I hope you enjoy the rerun. I'm gonna take this dried porcini and just chop it roughly, soak it in some boiling water, and then that same boiling water is gonna be the stock that we use for the risotto. And if you don't have dried mushrooms, you can totally skip this. You can use chicken broth or you can use beef broth. I'm putting the mushrooms in the bottom of a 1 liter container, topping it up to the 1 liter mark with boiling water. And then we're just gonna let those soak while we get on with everything else. I've got my Dutch oven over medium heat. I'm going to put a little olive oil in there. About a tablespoon of olive oil. That's not it for the fat. We're gonna add more butter and stuff later. While the olive oil is heating, I'm going to chop up an onion. I like to chop onion pretty finely for this risotto just because I kind of like it when the little bits of onion are kind of unrecognizable from the rice. So my goal is to try and cut the onion as finely as grains of rice. So the onions are going in. As I almost always do, I'm gonna put about a teaspoon of salt in right at the beginning because I'm fairly certain that it's gonna need it. And the salt is gonna help draw some of the juices out of the onions. While that's going, I'm gonna crush a couple of cloves of garlic. Next in, I'm gonna go in with some mushrooms. So this is like actually a wild mushroom risotto because of the porcinis. And I also have chanterelles. I do have some button mushrooms as well, so just some creminis actually to bulk up the mushroom quotient. So that's going in. I love the kind of natural vibe of just torn wild mushrooms. So this is about 250 grams of mushrooms total going in now. And then I have another little bit that I've set aside just of the chanterelles. I'm gonna fry those after and use them as a bit of a garnish. All we do now is cook these for about 2 minutes until they kind of start to give up some of their juice. Meanwhile, I'm gonna get the rice ready. So this is carnaroli rice. And the idea here is that the rice gets a bit of a head start on all the flavors that are happening in the pan. And I just kind of toss them around for a minute or two at this stage. And then my favorite part comes up, which is adding wine. I love cooking with wine. The wafting smell of wine that comes up is just like, just heavenly. I don't normally measure, but I'm gonna measure a cup right now. So equal parts rice to wine. And then you'll hear the sizzle. I love it. Once the wine starts to kind of reduce a little bit, maybe after about 2 minutes, I'm just gonna start adding the mushroom stock that we made. And the porcinis that are floating in it are really nice and soft now because it's been about 10 minutes. So they're also gonna go in. The reason I think this risotto is a bit easier than others is because I don't add it like little bit by little bit. I actually add like big bit by big bit. So you don't really have to be babysitting it as much as a lot of people seem to think. A half to a third. Give it a little stir. And now where most recipes would say you have to stand here and stir, I'm gonna say keep it on like a medium low and put the lid on and walk away for about 5 minutes. All right, so it's been about 6 minutes or so, and that first round of mushroom stock has been totally absorbed into the rice. And as you can see, I haven't been stirring it at all. It's been sitting with the lid closed. for that whole time, and it's super creamy. Like, you don't need to stir to make it creamy. It's just creamy because that's the nature of the rice. When you cook it and stir it even just a little bit, it starts to release those starches. So once that first round has absorbed, I'm gonna dump in the second round of stock, leaving the last little bit at the bottom in case there's any dirt. This round should be about another 6 minutes with the lid on, and then we'll just do our final adjustments. I like to drop a branch of fresh thyme in there, or rosemary, for a little extra herby fall flavor business. So all the broth is now absorbed into the rice, and it looks really, really creamy. And if I just take a tiny little bite, it's like almost perfectly cooked. It's kind of got a tiny bit of firmness left in it, but that's what I want because I'm about to give it one last step before I call it done. I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to grate some Parmesan cheese into it as well. Handful of Parm. You could add other cheese here too. If you are into blue cheese, you could definitely make this a blue cheese and mushroom risotto. I find that's a little bit strong for the chanterelles though, because they've kind of got like a delicate flavor and texture. Scrape it in and give it a little preliminary stir. And now I'm just gonna leave this off the heat and let it kind of just sit. No heat required. Just keep the lid on and let everything let everything kind of come together at the end. I'm going to make a little topping with some chanterelles and a few sage leaves. So this is kind of a fun optional extra. Really glad we unplugged the fire alarm here. Let's see what we have here. Oh yeah. This is so creamy. So I don't think this takes too much longer than doing it in the Instant Pot. I feel like Instant Pot risotto, you have to set it for 6 minutes, and then there's the time it takes to heat up and build up the pressure. So that's probably another 10. This took like 25 maybe overall. And look how creamy it is. Like, I don't want it any creamier than that. That's pretty perfect to me. Oh yeah. Oh, a little crack of pepper. And then throw some of these bits on top. Nothing too fancy, you know. Don't want to mess around too much, but a little bit of messing around is kind of fun sometimes. And you can put more cheese on if you want. That's totally up to you. But that's it. That's the mushroom risotto, and I'm pretty excited about it. And it's delicious. Thanks for joining me today for this revamped risotto video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this technique inspires you to make risotto a little more often because it's so good. See you next time.